I don't think you understand. God didn't make the good, the pod, the ugly. I did. I didn't come back to rescue the good, the pod, ugly from you. I came to save you from the good, the pod, the ugly.
Ooh, Colonel Troutman. Way to go.
Yeah, first blood.
Yeah.
Woo!
Bringing her back. Where did she go?
That's cinema, baby.
Sonny Corleone was a Long Island tough, big eggplant energy, but it wasn't enough. Quattro lived in a belly, but he got one in the brain. My feet exploded, Nessie driving RoboCop insane. Clyde had a gun for fighting, Bonnie wanted one for fun. They was only 24 and 25, and she got 26 shots when they died. And there were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died.
Oh, it's me. Hello and welcome to season 15 of The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, a film podcast where we normally pair films in the filmography of a director or actor. This season, we are doing a practical effect, sometimes digital, called The Squib, tracing its history through a specially curated series of films. I am your host, Ken.
I'm your host, Ryan.
This isn't Patrick, it's Thomas. I'm back.
Hey! And this week we are joined by Jack.
Hey.
Hey!
Hey!
My fellow boomer.
My fellow American.
You don't have to shout into the microphone, Grandpa. This is part 2 of our pairing with Django Unchained, which we talked about at length last week. 1982's First Blood.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about what a squib is, do we?
A squib is a practical effect that's a little explosive. Sometimes if it's a blood squib on a person, they will activate it themselves and there'll be a condom full of blood or something that squirts out. It's also used for shooting trees, concrete, cars, etc. We don't need to do a history of it, but...
Okay.
And if you watch First Blood, you may be asking yourself, what is a squib? Because...
Well, walls get them.
Yes, for sure.
And if you watch Django Unchained, you definitely know what a squib is, because they were all over the place.
Yes.
One thing that these two films have in common, if I may.
Yeah.
They both came out in years ending in 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. Oh, wait, I guess there were people in manacles in both.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I guess both might have had dirty ponchos.
Yeah.
I guess if I have to stretch, both have strangers that come into town and a sheriff asks them or tries to make them leave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Maybe both protagonists have whip scars
Mm-hmm.
or torture scars. Maybe there's a booby trap in both. If you consider the tooth exploding with dynamite, a booby trap.
Yep.
Both people steal coats.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, they were stolen coats. Now, in First Blood, that coat kind of disappears after he steals it off the helicopter fatality. But yeah, but they still... Oh, both have dogs.
Hey.
And both a hero gets strung up. And
Mhm.
the naked man gets hit with water. You get a little man ass in both. Both have woods. Both have torches.
Mm.
And both you have a person doing laundry outside. And both, this is stretching a little bit for First Blood, but and the book definitely there. Both have dynamite.
Mm.
And both in their credits, one in the opening and one in the closing, have a song written for the movie that has the title of the movie in it.
Good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
Very good.
Excellent work.
So First Blood, first time seeing fellow Zoomer Jack?
This would be my second viewing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. When was your first? How long ago?
I would say probably about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that might have been a COVID era watch with us. Ryan?
Let's see. I first saw this movie in high school, and I've probably seen it 2 or 3 times, probably 3 times since.
They played this movie in your high school?
No,
you
but
foresaw it? Like it hadn't come out yet?
No, I had a vision of the film as a boomer in the early 70s. I was in high school, and I had a vision of Watergate followed by Rambo First Blood.
Thomas?
I did not have a vision of this film. I think I saw it for the first time, I don't know, it was pre-COVID, maybe 10 years ago. I think I was on a kick of reading books and then watching the movies that they were loosely based on. So I think I read this around the same time. I also read the Death Wish book.
Brian Garfield.
Hates Mondays.
Yep. Loves lasagna.
And I guess that leaves you, Ken.
I was 11 years old, and my dad took me to see it. He had a really weird thing where, like his generation, or like, if it had sex in it, I don't think these kids should be seeing this.
Yeah.
But a rated R movie about a guy, we were living in Southern Oregon at that time, and it looks like the Pacific Northwest, guy running around killing people and whatnot was okay. So it was like a crowded auditorium in Grants Pass, Oregon. Of course, the demographic for this movie. And I've seen it many, many times since.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And so in 82, you probably weren't watching, I don't know, Still of the Night, which we've covered on the podcast, I think.
Nope, that was the Streep and Scheider, right?
Yeah. And you probably weren't watching Sophie's Choice.
No.
You might have gone and seen E.T. the Extraterrestrial or Poltergeist.
Ooh.
Both. Big yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we didn't cover The Challenge, the Frankenheimer movie with Scott Glenn as a ninja or something.
No,
but you might have gone and seen Honky Tonk Man or Firefox with your Paul.
Firefox, we saw it on Father's Day, Regal Cinemas in Grants Pass at that time. If you were a dad with your kids, they let you in for free.
Wow.
What?
Whoa.
What a deal.
So there were just, I bet that there were just men taking
Hey, kid.
that weren't theirs.
Yeah, like, after the movie where we're leaving, and the guy's like, "Hey, kids, you want to see that again?"
Oh, what a bad idea. The 80s were a different time, I understand.
It was a packed auditorium, though, so it was that with a balcony, full one screen, old school cinema.
So while I got this film on Blu-ray from the Multnomah County Library,
Shout out.
I realized that I have a copy, and I don't know. Did one of you give me this? Because it says Borders, and it says For the Best Man.
Oh.
And it's a DVD edition. And I don't know. I mean, the For the Best Man, somebody else could have written on it at some point. It could have been, the price tag was ripped off. So either that was discretion or maybe it was bought used.
That's weird, because I was looking for my DVD of First Blood to watch it, and I couldn't find it.
And I was the official at your wedding, so I wouldn't have been your best man.
Huh.
So do you think I just stole your copy?
That seems likely. Anyway, we got to take a break on the podcast right now where we litigate possible theft between hosts.
So on your DVD version, did you have Metavision technology? An industry first, where while you're watching the film, if you activate this, you can activate the early warning system, the meta brief, the metascope, the meta point, or the meta map. And as you're watching the movie, really bad computer graphics come on to give you a different perspective, like to basically curtain off or frame off portions of what you're seeing to make it smaller, to make it seem like it's interactive. Like you're seeing where it's at on a map, or you get a scope on somebody's head, like it's trying to shoot them. No? Oh.
No.
Then I'm going to keep this version because this is amazing.
Please do. It does sound amazing.
It sounds awful.
It also pulls up bios of people while you're watching it, including, so the fictional bios for people, you don't actually get it's not the actor's filmography.
Yeah. We have a little bit of lore in the podcast on this movie because Mike Nichols being attached early on, and then Dustin Hoffman as being who he wanted to play Rambo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
And Jack made an edit of the Rambo poster with Dustin Hoffman's face on it.
That's right, and it looks great.
It looks totally terrible. Yeah.
That would have been a bad movie.
Well, it would have been a very different movie, most likely, because this movie was 10 years in production from buying the rights, going to 3 different studios, I think 16 or 18 different scripts, to the film that you see today, probably largely contributable to Stallone, even though I would love to talk, and we might do this, for at least like 45 minutes on Canadian director Ted
Canadian Gesundheit. I would love to talk particularly about Wake and Fright. Jack and I, it's one of our favorite movies that Kotcheff directed, and had to be the reason that they approached him for this film, I would imagine.
I don't know. I mean, I was upset that we lost a perfectly good Christmas movie, Christmas adjacent movie by watching First Blood. But we could still do Wake and Fright. And unfortunately, even with Weekend at Bernie's and Split Image, we might have a 4x4 for Ted.
He is a classic journeyman hack in a good way director that we talk about quite a bit.
Which, this might get you excited, Ryan. When he was in England for the BBC, he directed a television version of The Desperate Hours. The television movie, Desperate Hours.
Fascinating. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, he worked all over the place. For a Canadian, he got around. Yeah, I don't know why that I said for a Canadian, because other Canadians get around. It's not like they're all stuck there.
Everybody who knows Canadians know they're slutty as hell.
I mean, Canada's pretty much LA.
LA doesn't fuck anymore, Jack. You need to go visit.
No, I think that is a pull from Revenge.
Yeah, it was. That was a deep reference. Very good.
I stand corrected. First Blood. It's a good one.
Well, we're not at reactions yet, Ryan.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Kotcheff's final film, The Shooter or Hidden Assassin. And which would we prefer, the 104-minute or the 89-minute cut of
that's
the
why
Dolph
you kept
Lundgren?
sending those awful movies in the text.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were just having a normal Friday night.
No, I was doing research.
Okay.
Yes, very important research. Why don't you tell us all about this research then?
Oh, okay. Do we start with Weekend at Bernie's or Wake and Fright?
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Let's talk about First Blood. Can we talk about First Blood?
Yeah, I'm confused, guys. I've never seen First Blood. What's it all about?
Oh.
Why are we talking about it?
Wow, First Blood?
Yeah, First Blood.
It's based on the novel by David Morrell, which you can get at the Multnomah County Library as soon as Thomas returns it.
True. It's overdue, actually.
Boo.
Yeah, right one day. I knew that we would be talking about it today, so I wanted to have the opening and the closing paragraphs because I think it would be very interesting for a comparison. And maybe how you could compare this to, I don't know, the Vision that has Dustin Hoffman in it.
Whew, man, who wants to take a stab at the plot? I mean, Sylvester Stallone plays John Rambo, and he's in the Pacific Northwest near a town called Hope, Washington, which was actually filmed in Hope, British Columbia. He is looking for an old buddy of his who brought home cancer, presumably because of Agent Orange. And then he goes wandering into a town, and a sheriff's like, I don't like these darn hippies. He's like, I'll drive you out of town. And then he just turns back around.
Because he wants something to eat.
He's just a guy who got back from Vietnam and doesn't have anything. And
a brief 8 years prior.
Yeah. And he gets arrested and treated like shit. He escapes, goes in the woods. First the sheriffs and the deputies, and then the National Guard start looking for him. And he has a one-man machine against the people chasing him, and he ends up in the downtown of this little small town to get revenge on the sheriff, played by Brian Dennehy, who has one of the coolest fucking jackets of the era.
True.
Yeah, and then his old colonel that developed the men's action book team of killers in Vietnam that he was on comes and talks him down, played by Richard Crenna, who was originally going to be played by Kirk Douglas.
Yep. But Kirk Douglas, according to the Stallone audio track on both the Ultimate Edition DVD, where you have Metavision, and on the Blu-ray, wanted more from the character and thought that Rambo should be he should fight Rambo at the end and end up like driving away with him hog-tied to the back of the vehicle.
Well, no, he wanted Troutman to kill Rambo, and then as he's driving out of town, he looks in the rearview mirror, and then it pans up, and he's wearing Rambo's headband. That's the end of the movie.
What? And he quit the production so quickly that they had to find somebody else. That's how Crenna got on it. Richard Crenna got on it. But he has him wear the director has him wear a long coat in the scenes because Crenna's much taller
than Douglas. Most people are.
And so
was he a tiny boy?
He's like 5'8".
He was a short king.
Okay.
And Crenna's quite tall, so they gave him the same outfit, but they had to they had to cover up the fact that he was too tall for the outfit.
And they had to feed him lines, right? Because he didn't even have time to prepare.
Well, he had just come off of being a play where he was a doctor, and very scary for the 1982, like a wild character choice, a homosexual. So he had a different affectation in his voice, and so they had to like, with one day of turnaround, basically, like he shows up on set, find a new, configure who he is. So he is this other, I don't know, Kirk Douglas type.
They had him act, yeah.
And he does. I mean, the moment he shows up, he's chewing the hell out of that scenery.
Yeah. I'm not saying, yeah. He's saving them from Rambo. Exactly. Troubled production, or post-production, I guess.
Well, both, because originally they were going to shoot, they shot in British Columbia because it was supposed to be pretty moderate in the winter, and it was the worst winter they had had in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, days are kind of short in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really have a very long shooting day.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about? Or are you talking about the 3-hour cut that came out?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they had a 3-hour cut, and I guess a lot of stuff from the book was in it. Maybe you could talk about the book a little bit more and how they just cut it all down to 93 minutes. Tom Noble, fairly renowned editor, has a visual consultant credit on the movie. And I think he might have been a part of figuring out how to winnow it down to 93 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Stallone said that he couldn't, he was embarrassed to buy the film, the original cut, and wanted to buy it and bury it.
Yeah.
Because it was so, just so loose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more running around in the woods, apparently, that happened. There was two, there's one deleted sequence on hard media that you can watch, which is a Saigon, I think, scene where Rambo meets a lady of the night, and they have sex, and then I think there might be an assassination attempt. I can't quite recall, but it's whenever he's staring at the fire, like he recalls happier times, ? But let me read you the opening of the book just so you can get a sense, and then we'll talk a little bit about just the first paragraph, if you don't mind, if you indulge me. His name was Rambo, and he was just some nothing kid for all anybody knew, standing by the pump of a gas station at the outskirts of Madison, Kentucky. He had a long, heavy beard, and his hair was hanging down over his ears to his neck, and he had this hand out trying to thumb a ride from a car that had stopped at the pump. To see him there, leaning on one hip, a Coke bottle in his hand, and rolled up sleeping bag near his boots on the tar pavement, you would have never guessed that on a Tuesday, a day later, most of the police in Balsett County would be hunting him down. Certainly, you would not have guessed that by Thursday he would be running from the Kentucky National Guard and the police of 6 counties and a good many private citizens who like to shoot. But then, from just seeing him there ragged and dusty by the pumps of the gas station, you have never figured the kind of kid Rambo was, or what was all about to make it all begin. So, yeah, he's definitely more of a hippie-ish type in the book, because the book comes out in 1972. The war's still on.
Yeah.
And so, and he's a kid, right? So he's probably in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And so it's a very different film. And I think Stallone talks about this watching it with an audience, or maybe it's the director, because you can, I'm sorry, not the director, the writer, because you can hear his commentary on the Blu-ray. But they say they're watching it in a screening, or maybe like the first opens, and the audience is kind of shrugging. Like, why is this sheriff talking about a long-haired person? Like, almost everybody in the audience has long hair. So without the beard, without that other portion of it, like it is an odd artifact of a different time, just by the duration of how long. They didn't try and set it back in 1972.
Yeah.
They kept it present day. And so people are just kind of shrugging, like, what's going on with this?
Yeah.
The book's quite different in that your sheriff, Donahue character, is half the book. They alternate chapters between perspectives. Between Rambo's perspective and the sheriff's perspective. The sheriff has a wife in LA who's estranged and is basically like not quite divorced him yet. And he's worried about her throughout the book. The guy with the dogs is his surrogate dad because he accidentally shot his dad and killed him during a hunting expedition.
Wait, why are you writing stuff down, Jack?
It's for his Dick Cheney biopic. The shot him during hunting, and what was the big change? Oh, he's a Korean War hero. But as Stallone will tell you repeatedly during the audio commentary, no one really, Korea was a forgotten war. And so there's like this big generational rivalry between a Vietnam vet and a Korean vet.
And that was part of the book, right?
Well, the book doesn't really have it as to the degree that Stallone wants it to be, but it is in the book that he is a Korean veteran.
Okay. Yeah, it's not really present in the movie too much.
Kentucky is, of course, not the same as Washington State.
It's very close.
No, but they're both great because they both have Ken in it.
Oh.
Wow.
That is something that's interesting you brought that up, because that's something when we watched this for the first time in 2020 that I was also totally confused by, because I don't think I had any real historical context about the way like hippies or drifters or whatever were treated back then, especially also not to mention Vietnam vets. And that was something where I remember when we watched it, you said, man, if they remade this in 2020, it would be like a Black War veteran, and that would be the whole thing. And then Jeremy Saulnier eventually.
Same idea.
Yeah. He ripped off your idea.
Rebel Ridge.
Yes.
Shout out.
Good movie.
Yeah. Very good movie.
But not as good as First Blood.
Not as good as First Blood.
Hey, that sounds like a
The one that
reaction.
started it all.
Yeah, we're at reactions.
I do like the most recent film is called, I believe, Final Blood.
Oh my god, it's so fucking terrible.
I've not seen it. But I do like the idea. Also, that for the sequel, because this movie, everyone wants to call it Rambo, but it's not. It's First Blood.
Yeah.
And so it's First Blood. Was it Chapter 2?
No, it's Rambo First Blood Part 2.
One of the worst titles of all time.
Yeah.
Truly. Great movie, though.
It's a completely different movie. This movie is really kind of, for me anyway, it's not, but I always think of it kind of as both the end of that era of filmmaking of the 70s and kind of moving towards the filmmaking of the 80s. Because, in the original, everybody knows he dies in the original, he kills himself. But leaving that door open for the sequel, which goes full 80s, kind of makes this an interesting movie historically.
The sequel is like if you went from Rocky to Rocky 4 immediately.
With nothing in between. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's I think this is a perfect movie, and like Rocky, and it's just wild that he ruined his reputation forever, but made $1 bazillion in return through extending these, sequelizing these films that never should have had sequels.
Yeah, particularly this movie, and we'll get to it in reactions. His last scene in the movie with Trotman is I think that's Sylvester Stallone's single best acting of any movie he's ever been in.
Yeah,
and anytime he's tried to sincerely act since, it's always been that has been the tail that wags the dog. It's like Sylvester Stallone's in this cop land, and it becomes kind of a thing, but it's also commenting on the fact that he just gotten by on personality and star power subsequent to this movie. I don't think he's ever been better than that last scene.
No, I think
it's heartbreaking every time you see it.
Yeah. It is very moving. I think it's the best performance.
Yeah, Lee was my spouse was very hesitant to watch this. And I was like, I don't think this is the film that you think that it is, babe. Or hun, because we can say that word now. You missed that last episode. And so, and then, afterwards, she was like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It's definitely not what I thought of, because something happened with the sequel that would change this film, but also in the popular imagination, but which is interesting that this film actually changes a little bit from the book. To make it an underdog story. One of the things that Morel, the author, says watching it multiple times during his commentary is, people talk about how violent this film is, but 4 people die.
Yeah, it's not that violent.
In the book, Rambo, the kid, not John Rambo, just Rambo, the kid, kills everybody. So nice. The sheriff runs out with his posse to try and get him back. Everybody but the sheriff dies.
Wow.
And he it's not like he throws a rock and somebody wasn't wearing their seatbelt and they fell off a helicopter. He straight up kills people. Then he finds, like, the people he doesn't kill is because he runs into some moonshiners that might be a weird pederast situation, or it might be a father-son. It's really uncomfortable and unknown, but they help him out to give him like clothes and a gun to move on. And he doesn't kill them, but the hunters, anybody else that comes along his way, other vigilantes that come out to try and grab him, they all die.
Wow.
And he plans on killing himself at the end with dynamite, as he just can't keep going on. But he has this irrational thing where he's like, I don't know, like, I have nothing really to live for. And I need, like, the sheriff just has pushed me too far. I just need to kill the sheriff. So he starts to hunt the sheriff.
So the book with its dual narratives is basically a story about those two eventually confronting one another?
Well, the sheriff doesn't fully get to back in town. There's Troutman, the sheriff. I'm sorry, Troutman's the colonel. Teasle's the sheriff. Here's the last paragraph. Show you how different it is. Troutman pumped the empty shell from the shotgun, and Teasle watched its wide arc glistening through the air. He thought about Anna again, and she still did not interest him. Anna's his wife. She still did not interest in him. He thought about his house he had fixed up in the hills. The cat's there, and none of that interested him either. He thought about the kid, and flooded with love for him. And for just a second, before the empty shell would have completed its arc to the ground, he relaxed and accepted peacefully, and he was dead.
Wow.
So the sheriff dies as well, having been shot by Rambo. They end up shooting each other, and they end up bleeding out, basically, in the town. Very bleak.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Deliverance, but the book Deliverance, but the book Deliverance is better written.
I got to read that. That's on my summer read list. Yeah, that's something you said earlier is something that I feel like you can't watch this movie just the way it's been culturally diluted with its sequels and everything that has come after it, ripping it off. I feel like I had the exact same reaction where I was settled in for the first time, ready to watch Rambo First Blood Part 2. That's what I thought this movie was going to be. And that's what I think everyone thinks this movie is going to be that hasn't seen it for the last 40 odd years.
You were ready to watch Rambo First Blood Part 1.
No, I'm saying the movie
and instead you just got First Blood. Yeah.
Yes. The movies that the sequels are not this movie. And it's the same with the Rockies. Like I saw Rocky 4 before Rocky, so I always assumed Rocky was as ridiculous as Rocky 4.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a small, moving little picture. And same with this one.
Did we know there weren't many squibs when we put it on the list?
Nope.
Who put it on the list?
I thought of it as being squibby.
I don't know who put it on originally, but we all voted to put it on there.
I don't think I voted in abstention. I don't think. Okay, it doesn't matter. I
remembered it being a lot more bloody than it actually is.
Yeah,
I think I did too, and that might be the conflating of the subsequent movies.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're going to do a makeup at the end, and we all get to add a film in, and mine will probably be Hot Shots Part 2.
So another thing is I always am really confused when I check the Letterboxd or IMDb page and I see that this came out in 1982. I always forget that, and I guess part of it is this movie being in development since the early 70s and being based on a book from the early 70s. This, to me, I always think of as one of the mid to late 70s sad guy Vietnam movies that were coming out. Like Taxi Driver is probably the other big one where it's not really about Vietnam, but the shadow of the Vietnam War is over the whole thing. Yeah, this really is what you said earlier, the end of an era and the start of another one, because half of this is a sad guy Vietnam movie, and then the other half of this is like him jumping on top of a truck and shit.
Well, but what's really interesting is that the shift from the film, and this is again, I think Stallone's doing, to the film's benefit, is that he really wanted to not. He said, like, look, we could watch these films where, like Taxi Driver, a guy comes back and he's killing people, and he's an outsider, and no one lets him in. But that, I think, I wanted to make a film that had hope in it. Basically, is what he was conveying, where you don't have to see that violence in it, and if you're going through that as a person, you're watching the film, you can see that there might be an alternative instead.
I do think that the way it handles is like, I think this is the most realistic film about Vietnam War vets after the war of all those sad boy movies that you were talking about, Jack. I think a lot of those are melodramatic. Something like Taxi Driver, of course, isn't trying to be quote unquote realistic, but I'm thinking of The Deer Hunter and other things like that. Whereas this is like a really, if it were more violent, then his character would not be so easy to empathize. I mean, he's just so easy to empathize with. You just can't help but feel from this guy from the first moment. And I think the hair thing actually plays to the character's benefit, because when he gets stopped and asked about that, it's like the audience is like, what do you mean long hair? In a way that's like, he's obviously persecuting Stallone for no reason, you know?
Yeah, it's just a pretext.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in the book, they shave some of his head, so he's running around with like a bad...
Jesus.
Well, not Jesus. Jesus had beautifully long blonde hair, we all know from the photos.
Yes.
I was thinking like Britney Spears halfway shaved or something.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, he really is. I think that the ending scene especially, but this whole movie I really think is Stallone's best performance, because he's playing into his Stallone-ness, but he really just feels like, I don't know, like a puppy dog or something. He honestly feels like a kid, just like a big kid.
Yeah, especially by the end.
Yeah. And all this stuff that's happening to him, it's like he's acting out, but he's like backed into a corner, you know?
Yeah. But, and the opening of the film is really magical in a way. It looks nice, and you have a drifter coming into town, but it's not coming into town at first. He's coming into his friend's place.
Yeah.
And his friend's dead. He doesn't realize it. And then he realizes that he has nobody right? He gives the photo over, and that's not in the book at all.
Oh.
And so he hasn't lost his whole troop, and he hasn't gone back to try and reunite with anybody. He's just drifting. And so it's more of like kind of that hippie scare, or that idea of some like the person you just don't know in town.
Well, and at this time, this was around the era that vets were getting the reputation for being mentally ill and unstable and homeless and itinerant. Like all those problems showed up after Reagan shut social services down. So I think this would have been a new but already familiar kind of type of guy that you're seeing, you know.
That's a good point. This did come out in the middle of a recession.
Yes, and
a bad one too.
Yeah, and Reagan cut by 1982. Reagan had cut 80% of social services, including closing down all the mental health facilities. So that's why we had an escalation of mentally ill and neurodivergent people running the streets.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the man being represented by a sheriff was a suitable villain.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
And we're really getting close to the point where that would no longer be suitable for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's a good point.
There's another idea in there. Let me think. Because it was about one of the difficulties they had in developing the script and why it went through so many was that you do have somebody, as one of the two commentators on the track said, either Stallone or Morrell, somebody who's bringing the war home and is attacking other Americans. It's like somebody declaring war on America.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is fairly muted, especially with 4 people dying in the film.
Yeah, it's not like what was that Walter Hill movie, Southern Comfort?
Yeah. I think I think the genius of the movie is that bringing the war home is both the violence and the sadness that nobody can help. You know, there's nobody in this movie who can make anything better for Rambo. He's just fucked. That's kind of the tone everybody takes when they meet him. Is like, oh, this guy, bummer about him, you know. Even his old boss is not coming to somehow restore him psychically or help him make a better life. It's like, I have to clean up this mess, you know?
Yeah. And one of the things they trimmed down a little bit was that he's like, whenever he meets with the sheriff outside the bar, I think at a different time, there's a sense that he's there to kill Rambo. And he's like, I can get in close to him and finish things. Versus the movie in the final edit does leave it ambiguous. He's like, well, I'll know when I see him, whether or not I have to kill him or not.
Yeah.
Whether it's redeemable.
Wow.
And in the original ending, as Ken said, like not in the book, they both die. And the original cut of the movie, Rambo grabs a gun from the colonel and shoots himself. Or in a struggle, forces the colonel to shoot him, so he dies. And that would be very much more of that 70s movie.
Exactly. Very.
And that's a worse
nihilistic ending. Yeah, I agree.
Because you wouldn't get the same song at the end, probably. A long road.
That and probably the fact that the mine sequence seemingly lasts 4 hours in a 90-minute movie. Those are probably my 2 least favorite things about it. It's funny you guys are saying the original cut was 3 hours because it still feels like he's in the mine for 3 hours.
Wow.
It doesn't feel like it's that long on this last viewing for some reason. I think but maybe because everything else is so quick. Like the motorcycle chase is fucking awesome. Like it's that great 70s cars jumping and racing through things, racing down a sidewalk. Stallone doing a lot of his own stunts for that.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I think McQueen was originally wanting in it. Is that you can do that. Yeah. That's who we know. That's our Steve McQueen, right?
Rambo, Stallone broke some ribs when that's really him jumping into those trees, falling into those trees. That's not a stunt guy. And he broke some ribs when when it looks like he hits that branch on the way down. He really did.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe on the fourth take. And he's like, I think we got it.
Yeah.
Canadian Gazoon height. I'm going to call it a day.
Yeah.
But he
Andrew
also...
Laszlo was... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he also like hurts himself more in the cave as well. But the thing he bitches about the most on the DVD track is just how cold everything was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he has to run around. He's like, if I could do it again, I would have more than a tank top.
Yeah. Or if he would do it again, it would be all in jungle or Southern Hemisphere locations, which is what he did. Yeah. I was thinking watching this that how come none of the other Rambo movies are in cold weather? They're all like in deserts or jungles.
Mexico.
And that's how we know. Anyway, I was going to talk about Andrew Laszlo, who did the cinematography, the Hungarian director of photography. And a year before this, he was actually the director of photography of Walter Hill's Southern Comfort, which is about a National Guard troop who comes across some people in a weekend in Louisiana swamps, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it's very much totally a Vietnam analogy. So that is kind of funny that it has the same DP. And also from last week, his last movie he was the director of photography on was Ghost Dad, and was directed by Sidney Poitier.
But not the daughter.
I don't know. It just says Sidney Poitier. It could be the daughter.
Ghost Dad is also one of our friends DJ's name, I think.
DJ Ghost Dad. This was before all the business with Cosby, though. This was before all that. Wait, is Cosby is Poitier in Ghost Dad or is Cosby?
Poitier's the director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never had the pleasure.
Uh-oh. I think we know what next season's going to be.
I've never been pleasured by Ghost Dad. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
I have a question for you guys?
Yes.
Especially because at least Ryan and Ken, you grew up in the 80s. Did you ever know someone at school that dressed like Rambo?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's totally a guy.
Hell, I dressed like Rambo for a minute. Hey, you have that jacket. You dress like Rambo sometimes.
What jacket?
The field jacket of my dad's. The green one.
The green one?
The green field jacket.
With the hood?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's an army jacket.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. Is that part of why your dad took you to see it, Ken, do you think? Because did he serve?
He was in the Air Force during Vietnam, so he actually didn't serve overseas, but he was in the military.
Uh-huh.
He was fortunate. He was very fortunate.
In my experience, military families show kids R-rated war movies much earlier than other kids. So
interesting.
So we know from our Christmas adjacent episode a while back that Home Alone ended up like settling a pretty big lawsuit with the French film Dudley Games. Uh-huh. Do we know if First Blood also had to pay them for ripping them off?
Or maybe they needed the Home Alone money to pay off the lawsuit from Rambo.
Yeah.
So kids would dress like this? Is the general...
Yeah, 80s? There were Dustin at my school wore camo pants every day, and normally that Fields Army green shirt.
Jesus. I dressed in camo pants every day. I guess I was that kid.
Did you have a shirt, or were you just running around?
In your defense, Ken, that kid is a lot more popular up here than he is, at least in Phoenix.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did either of you have a knife that had a compass in the back and all these other things? Because that's not quite in the book, but it is very much a Rambo. Like Rambo popularized that custom survival parachute type knife.
It's pretty funny you say that, because I know First Blood is a movie made for grown-ups and has a lot of themes in it. But as a kid wearing camo, I mean, I lived on a mountain with no houses behind us, just woods. I would be running around all the time pretending I was Rambo, killing all the people after me.
Yeah, he was omnipresent. There was even a cartoon, wasn't there?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, but there was never any Rambo content that was at all kid friendly to spurn the cartoon. It's just that's many kids were seeing the movies under the radar. They were all watching RoboCop and Rambo.
I think that's a really interesting segue into how steeped in pop culture this movie is, and how how many times this template has been ripped off, especially what I think is the best scene in the movie when Troutman first shows up. How many, like, basically every single action movie ever made after this has a scene where the guy comes in and goes, you have no idea who you're fucking with. He did this, this, and this. And it's always just the same scene over and again. John Wick does it.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah, I hadn't thought I thought about Rebel Ridge, obviously, because it's such an explicit 1-to-1, but it is very common.
The author said something, Morel, to that effect, maybe. That I think is maybe self-aggrandizement, but I've also been struggling with the past few days. And he said there's very few characters taken from literature that then become this cultural, I don't know, archetype.
Yeah.
That is a name that is also spinning off other things that are not just him. And so he offered Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what the other two were, but it was like, he said like, there's only been like 4 instances and Rambo is one of those 4.
Mm.
And that's pretty outlandish, but it's really hard for me to refute.
Well, also this movie in today's money made $500 million at the movie theater.
Jeez Louise.
It was huge.
Wow. It made money from the future?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
I guess we should talk about the squibs at some point.
Oh yeah, insert rat-tat-tat. Squibs. This is squib season, and not many blood squibs in this movie, if any. Are there any?
There's a few.
There's a lot of practical squibs on environment, like especially at the last third when he gets into town with the big old gun. Yeah, lots of great practical squibs there for buildings and transformers. Not the robots, but like electrical transformers.
That'd be pretty cool, though.
I would like to see Rambo fight robots. That would be a good reason to make it.
But yeah, in terms of blood squibs, I think a guy gets shot in the shoulder by Rambo, or by someone aiming for Rambo. And then I think Rambo shoots a guy in the leg. And then at the end, he totally shreds the sheriff's legs with the M60. That's probably the most explicit one.
Yeah, plus it's through a skylight from it. It's that whole sequence, that cat and mouse thing of him shooting out the lights and using the geography of the town to get in there.
And when you're seeing his shadows on the few buildings that are left that have any light, when you're seeing just his shadows scampering around, it's very noir-ish.
Yeah.
La Petite Noir or just regular?
They have a lot of squibs though that aren't blood squibs. Stone will also tell you about that in the commentary, about how he almost lost an eye multiple times, and how people have died from squibs and how dangerous it really is.
Yeah,
but the tree squib's pretty good when he was getting shot at. Just hide behind the tree, like those explosions, definitely reacting to something in the real world.
Yeah.
I was wondering the same thing whenever he's in the cave for 6 hours and the mice attack him and he like grabs one and he like throws it. I was wondering, like, man, the rules for how you have to treat, like, you can't even kill a spider in a movie anymore. You have to have like a special spider handler and then whatever, which is a good thing. But I was wondering that with like trees, like you just go into the woods and blow up a bunch of trees. Like that seems environmentally not very conscious.
No.
I don't know about that.
Oh, you the Lorax? No. Is that what this is?
Rambo versus the Lorax. Rambo versus Transformers.
We got all the sequels for you.
Well, those, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, those rats were domesticated, like lab rats that were painted so they would show up, because it's really remarkable. Those cave scenes, just the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things I got very nostalgic for was having fire light up a scene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't really see that much
cinematography.
Yeah.
Shout out Laszlo.
Woo.
Yeah, the movie looks great.
Ghost Dad.
And I was assuming watching it this time, that it was shot in British Columbia, because that's where everything that takes place in Washington is shot. But it really does look like Washington.
I know, it does.
More than maybe any other British Columbia filmed movie I've seen. But yeah, this totally is a great stand-in for any Bill Cosby Ghost Dad. What are you showing me?
The way the mountain frames the town, I thought it was filmed in the same place that Twin Peaks was.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Or
same.
Twilight.
Yeah, more Twin Peaks, but
yeah.
Twilight was shot in Kalama.
Yeah.
It was shot? Is it okay?
So as far as the squibs, this might be the best for the non-blood squib, but other uses of it.
Yeah, there's plenty of them.
We had enough blood squibs in Django Unchained to
It's true.
have a bit of a break.
Yeah, it's a good chaser.
Real sploogey.
I think this is one of probably one of my favorite action movies. Definitely, certainly one of the best of the 1980s, and
yeah,
it's amazing how deeply, deeply resonant and sad this movie is, especially at the end with that scene where he's crying. And this time watching it, that scene where he's crying and he's rambling and he doesn't know what to do. I'm like, how many times living in Portland, you guys, have you seen people doing the same shit, talking to no one and rambling on about someone that they knew and some plan that they had, and just how fucking sad it is. The
terrible,
war machine industrial complex of this country just shoving people in, spitting them out, not caring what happens afterwards. And this movie manages to capture that while also having Sylvester Stallone jump on top of trucks and shit. It's quite remarkable. It's one of my favorite kinds of movies.
Yeah.
One of my favorite kinds of action movie that manages to be completely ridiculously stupid at times, but also make me real sad by the end.
Well, yeah. I think this is more effective than 90% of serious quote unquote Vietnam movies, as far as like conveying the experience and making you sympathize with people who've been through it. I think for all of the horrible shit that they show you in other Vietnam movies like this, just because it's entertaining, because you sympathize with him as an action hero as well as like a sad and doomed kind of fella.
And like Thomas was saying, it gives you a little bit of hope at the end, because in a lot of ways he's making a movie for those guys who actually serve.
Yeah,
they are the audience for this movie.
Well, I think what's fascinating, what's fascinating for me, Ken calls the cheap seats in a way. Like, it's not playing at maybe 4 different levels for 4 different audiences,
right?
Based off of experience or different interpretations of the world. It's really just like, I think everybody walks out of the film having watched a very, very similar movie. And it's almost elemental at that level. And it's not critical of the war in the same way that a film that might be a little bit more nadir or pessimistic is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't.
It's
take
about
a
the
stance.
person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about it.
And I think the Morrell book ultimately is saying, like, war sucks and it's terrible, and Vietnam War is a terrible thing, and all war is a terrible thing. And that's a different perspective than this film. It doesn't really deal with the war almost at some level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It instead deals with, abandonment.
There is a great podcast series for a recommendation for the co-hosts in the audience called Bringing the War Back Home. It's a Ringer short run series, and it's about the evolution of Vietnam movies in Hollywood and how the different ways that they were made and their perspectives from the late 60s. And I believe it ends with First Blood Part 2.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's a great series, though.
If you want a decent podcast, I guess listen to that. I'm just going to go ahead and finish out my bingo card right now using Rambo. Was there somebody performed self-wound care, like suturing, surgery, or cauterizing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the best effects in the film, right? When he's sewing up his arm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a tourniquet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a rampage mode / bloodlust?
Yes.
Yes.
Most of the movie.
Oh, Jack, you missed it last week. You weren't on for Django, but is there a kickback from a gun, or a gun knocks back somebody?
A rock certainly does. Does that count?
I think it's the wrong type of missile.
I mean, that M60 should be able to knock Stallone on his ass, but
Absolutely, yeah. It's supposed to be on a
Movie magic.
But you
tripod.
see his guns?
But speaking of Rocky 3, he was editing it. That's why he was so shaved and trim.
Oh,
Is that he
And
would
he
just come off of the Rocky set.
and he was about to direct Staying Alive, starring John Travolta.
Did he direct that?
This is crazy.
Yes.
This
Wrote,
person's
helped
life
write,
is
and direct.
insane.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
How can you make Rocky 3? Rocky 3 is not as absurd as Rocky 4, but it's definitely trending that way. And then come and do this, and then leave and go do Staying Alive. Like, this,
Uh,
One of a kind.
yeah, I always thought that this was him kind of like as a last ditch effort at being an actor or being relevant again, but he had the Rocky movies. Like, I don't think that they had, I guess because I knew this was the Staying Alive era. I just thought for some reason that like Fist and Victory and his other films around this time had tanked him, but they really hadn't.
no, he got the Staying Alive sequel because he was huge. And it was like it was a coup for the makers of the sequel to get such a big name.
Okay, do we have somebody who gets shot for speaking a foreign language?
No.
I think we do in Django, though.
Yeah.
Dynamite? Yeah, we have Dynamite.
Both.
Yeah.
We have a police station,
Uh-huh.
an armory,
Ooh.
a male butt,
Uh-huh.
defenstration. Yeah, there's somebody
Yes.
through a window.
Oh, yeah. A
oh.
couple.
Motorcycle, definitely. Falls into or saved by a tree, just like
Yeah.
Revenge. Is there a Twin Peaks cast member?
Yeah. Hank.
I put that one on the bingo card so we can have it for RoboCop.
Oh, that's right. Hank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a cave?
Yeah.
Yes.
Animal carcass or an animal being hunted?
Yes.
Yeah. The boar.
Helicopter. Binoculars. Yes. Are the titles red? Because they are in Django, Bonnie and Clyde, and I think Revenge.
I
think they're yellow.
Yeah, First Blood is pretty uninspired, not uninspiring, but very simple.
Okay.
Hold on, I rented the movie on YouTube, so I'll just check it out really quick.
All right, this is an audio.
An hour and 40 minutes later.
God, I love that movie so much.
All right, I just watched it again, and the titles are yellow indeed.
Okay. And then the last one, Fugitives.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think Rambo might be leading right now on the bingo card.
To do some fanfare and have Squib Academy Awards of the best and worst squib in this movie. Best? Are we going to go with that tree where he's sitting behind it and reacting? Our first non-blood squib?
I'll throw in a vote. I think when he shoots up that random storefront for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, that's a pretty
It's
good one.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
but it's also so bizarre and out of nowhere on his little rampage that it made me laugh.
It's beautifully destructive.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. I can go with that. Thomas, do you have a vote?
I'm going to give my vote to Ryan.
Okay.
I go with the storefront.
All right.
Storefront destruction. Do we have a worst squib?
No, but there's a special award for us all thinking that there was going to be a lot more squibs than there actually were when it came to bodies.
Yes. Because I remember the sheriff when he gets shot in the legs. I remembered it
Me
being
too.
like Die Hard.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah,
kinda,
like just a haze of blood when he gets shot.
Yeah. It's kind of low energy.
Hey, I know we're wrapping up the episode, but quick sidebar. Does anyone know anything about the movie Crusade, which is supposed to be directed by Verhoeven, starring
Arnold Schwarzenegger, about the Crusades? Yeah.
Are they really? Is he finally making that? That was going to be a Ridley Scott joint for a long time.
No, this was in 90. I'm looking in 1994 that they had. Carrico was going to make it and then had to pull out of it because of their Spider-Man lawsuit. Because originally they were going to do Spider-Man. So Carrico, this was the film that made them, right?
Yeah.
Kasser and Vanier.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason that Stallone was probably in this film, is because they were producers on the Huston, the guy from White Hunter Black Heart, his film called Victory that starred Stallone.
Wow.
And so they were able to, and so whenever Canadian Gesundheit, Canadian Sneeze director wanted Stallone, they were like, yeah, we can get him for you.
Okay. And Victory, that was the soccer, Nazi soccer movie, right?
Either soccer or American football. I don't know which football it was.
Okay, American, yeah. Yeah, that I've never seen that, but I think it's probably better in my head than it actually was. Because it's such a great idea. It's like The Longest Yard, but with soccer and Nazis instead of prison.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you guys, I'm going to see that new movie, Bring Her Back, in like 45 minutes. So.
Oh, nice.
I saw it last week.
If you want to wrap up, I would totally appreciate that. Sorry to cut y'all short, and also sorry to miss out on the Django episode, but I did not have time, nor did I want to watch that movie again.
Okay.
Special thanks to our sponsor, A24, and their new film, Bring Her Back, this week. Thank you, A24.
Bring her back. Where did she go?
I would like to mention one thing that I think Jack would appreciate. Stallone originally wanted to actually kill a boar on screen. I shit you not. And so I bet Ted, director, was like,
gotcha.
I mean, kangaroos get shot all the time in the outback. I made a movie about it. Let's explore that a little bit. Or he was a little bit like, I don't know, Vampire's Kiss, where the director on that was like, oh yeah, Cage, you want a real bat? Why don't you go get one from the park? Be busy for a while. I don't know which it was, but Stallone did his research to try and figure out how to do that, talking to hunters, Canadian hunters. And they're like, no, you're going to get killed by a boar. Like, if you try and kill a boar with a knife, you fucking moron. And he's like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, certainly. And like, well, what if we like wire its mouth shut? He's like, no, the boar is just like so much heavier than you. It will kill you. And so they had other ideas, like switching it over to a deer or a mountain lion. And they just got, he got shut down. It was like, no, that seems very dangerous for you to kill a live animal on film for the verisimilitude. We'll just have to do that in special effects.
Those people are a total bore, I tell you.
Oh.
And a Canadian would never call him a fucking moron. They'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but that's not really going to work that good, Hey, sorry." They'd apologize.
That was really good Canadian accent.
Was it? Is it like Doug and Bob McKenzie are here in the podcast studio?
I don't know who those are.
Oh, hey, you don't know who they are? You're kind of stupid then, aren't you?
It's more Fargo. I guess Fargo's close to whatever.
You
need the meta vision map thing, whatever the hell Thomas was talking about earlier. I failed geography.
Yeah. Okay.
Canada, we love you. Stay your own country.
Yeah, you don't want any part of this shit. Trust me, guys. Keep your poutine. Keep your hockey.
Do you guys see what Elon? Oh, never mind.
We should just cut the show right there.
Yeah.
So next week we advanced 1 year. We jumped back 9 years to cover Scarface, 1983, Elephant, 2003. Saying that just to clarify, if you're following along, we're not watching the 1989 Elephant yet. And we're not watching the 1932 Scarface ever.
Yet.
Yes.
You should watch Scarface 1932. It's good.
Next week is the 4th of July, and we actually are skipping that week because it's a holiday, and we'll see you the week after.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be out for Scarface and then back on for Elephant.
And Eric will be here for Scarface.
And Patrick.
And Chaplain Amy.
Yeah.
It'll be a full house, guys.
Thank you to Ryan for the theme.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks to Ken for editing the John Wick 2 episode and nearly tearing all his hair out.
For editing all the episodes, Kensington. All of them.
Thomas, it's good to have you back on the pod.
Thank you for coming back, Thomas. It was touch and go there. You dropped off the chat for a couple days.
Yeah, contract negotiations are a big
There were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died. Yeah, they made a big mess when they died. On they follow Walker down South American way. It got squibby, sticky, messy when they got there that day. Peyton lost his love and so he made a face. Django met a dentist, put big holes in little brains. Montoya's chest exploded, somehow wasn't the cocaine. And there were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died. And there were squibs when they died. There were squibs when they died. Yeah, they made a big mess and then they died.
Gotcha. They played this movie in your high school?
You foresaw it?
Brian Garfield.
Hates Mondays.
Gotcha.
Well, not Jesus. Jesus had beautifully long blonde hair. We all know from the photos. Are you the Lorax? Is that what this is?
Gotcha.